In a quiet coastal town where the sea kissed the sky each morning and the horizon seemed to stretch into forever, there lived a painter named Luca. His house stood at the edge of a narrow cobbled street, modest and weathered by salt and wind. The walls inside were covered with canvases in every shade, imaginable golden yellows, ocean blues, tender pinks, and daring reds. Luca was not famous. No galleries displayed his work. No critics wrote about his technique. Yet, to the people of that small town, he was something far greater than an artist. He was a bringer of light. Luca did not paint for money or recognition. He painted for people. Each morning, just after the fishing boats drifted back into harbor and the scent of fresh bread floated from the bakery, Luca would step outside with his worn paint box tucked under his arm. He would wander slowly through the streets, observing quietly. He had a gift for noticing what others missed: the heaviness in a shopkeeper's sigh, the quiet tears of a child sitting alone, the tired slump of a fisherman returning from a long night at sea. Whenever he sensed sadness, he responded with color. If a shopkeeper frowned while sweeping her doorstep, Luca would paint a small golden sun beside her door. If children argued on the pavement, he would kneel and draw a bright rainbow stretching across the gray stones. When an elderly man sat silently on a bench, staring at nothing, Luca might paint a field of wildflowers on the wall behind him. People often shook their heads. "Why do you waste your paint?" they would ask. Luca always answered with the same gentle smile. Colors don't fade when they're shared. Life, however, was not easy for him. Paint and brushes cost money, and Luca earned very little. He refused payment from those he painted for, accepting only the occasional loaf of bread or cup of tea. There were days he skipped meals so he could afford new brushes. On rainy afternoons, when the sky turned heavy and gray, Luca would sit by his small window overlooking the restless sea. He would watch the waves crash against the rocks and whisper to himself, "Even gray skies deserve a little color." One afternoon, as the air shimmered with summer heat, a timid knock echoed at his door. Standing there was a young girl named Clara, her dark hair pulled back loosely, her eyes wide with worry. "Mister," she said softly, clutching the edge of her dress, "my mother is sick. Can you paint something happy for her?" Luca did not hesitate. "Of course, child." He followed Clara through narrow streets to a small, quiet house near the shore. Inside, the air felt heavy with silence. Clara's mother lay pale and fragile in a simple bed. Behind her, the wall was cracked and dull, marked by time and hardship. Without saying a word, Luca set down his paint box. Stroke by careful stroke, he transformed that broken wall into a vast blue sky. He painted white birds soaring freely, their wings open against the endless horizon. Light seemed to spill from the image itself. When he finished, he wiped his hands gently and stepped closer to the bed. "Now," he said softly to Clara's mother, "when you wake each morning, look at the sky and remember that you, too, can fly." A faint smile touched her lips. Tears shimmered in her tired eyes. It was not just a painting, it was possibility. News of Luca's kindness spread quietly through the town. Soon his colors appeared everywhere. The baker's wall bloomed with a radiant sunrise. The fisherman's shack shimmered with deep blue waves dancing under silver stars. The school gate burst with painted children holding hands, forever laughing. What had once been a dull cluster of buildings slowly transformed into a living canvas. Something remarkable happened as the colors multiplied. People began to smile more. Neighbors greeted each other warmly. Strangers paused to admire the murals and found themselves talking as if they had been friends for years. The town felt lighter, as though hope itself had taken physical form in pigments and brushstrokes. Yet, while the town flourished, Luca's body grew weary. Years under the blazing sun and salty winds had taken their toll. His hands sometimes trembled, his steps slowed, but he never stopped painting. He believed deeply that joy was a responsibility, not a luxury. One quiet morning, when the sea lay still as glass, the townspeople noticed something unusual. Luca's window remained closed long after sunrise. Concerned, a few neighbors knocked on his door. When there was no answer, they gently stepped inside. They found him seated peacefully before a canvas, his brush resting loosely in his hand. Before him glowed a magnificent sunrise, brilliant oranges melting into soft pinks and luminous gold. At the bottom of the canvas were simple words, written in steady strokes. "If you ever forget how to smile, look for my colors. I painted them for you." Luca had left the world the same way he had lived in it, quietly, gently, surrounded by color. Grief swept through the town like a sudden storm. Yet, as the days passed, something unexpected began to emerge. Instead of fading, Luca's colors seemed brighter. The murals felt alive, whispering reminders of kindness and courage. People realized that Luca had given them more than paintings. He had given them a way of seeing. Years passed. Travelers from distant cities began to hear of the town of colors. They came to wander its painted streets, to photograph the murals glowing under sunlight, to stand before the blue sky with white birds and feel something stir within their own hearts. No one charged admission. No one sold souvenirs bearing Luca's name. The townspeople refused to turn his gift into profit. They had learned his greatest lesson. Joy is not something you sell. It is something you share. Young artists eventually arrived, inspired by the story of the humble painter. Each asked permission to add their own small mural. The townspeople welcomed them warmly. Beside Luca's original works, new paintings appeared: fields of lavender, dancing lanterns, children chasing kites. And somewhere within each piece, the artists left a subtle mark, a tiny golden sun, a quiet tribute to the man who had first taught the town to see in color. Over time, the coastal winds continued to blow, and seasons shifted as they always do. Some murals faded slightly. Others were restored lovingly by steady hands. But the spirit behind them never diminished. The town itself became a living testament to one simple truth: happiness grows when you give it away. Luca never sought fame, yet his life became a masterpiece far greater than any single canvas. He understood that art is not confined to frames. It lives in gestures, in shared moments, in the courage to brighten someone else's day even when your own feels gray. Perhaps the most powerful part of Luca's story is not the beauty he created, but the cost he willingly embraced. He sacrificed comfort for compassion. He chose generosity over security. And in doing so, he proved that the soul expands when it pours itself outward. Today, if you wander through that quiet coastal town at dawn, you may still feel his presence in the way sunlight touches painted walls. You may notice how strangers smile at one another without knowing why. You may sense that beneath the layers of pigment lies something deeper, reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can outlive a lifetime. And maybe, just maybe, you will ask yourself a gentle question. If your life were a painting, what color would you choose today? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming English stories only on English Life Tales.